Recent shooting in Waco. 5 biker gangs apparently in a huge war over one another. Apparently they came to this place called Twin Peaks, the restaurant in Waco, Texas, to get along. They were trying to do a peace summit. Didn't work out that way. Now let me give you some of the stats. The stats are bad, and then we'll talk about white-on-white crime, which is a real epidemic in America. So 9 killed, 18 injured, over 170 arrested, over 100 weapons recovered. Okay, so it's already tragic because loss of life is terrible no matter what the circumstances are. We feel terrible about that. Now, law enforcement, curious response here. Now, first of all, they explain how terrible it was. They say, in my nearly 35 years of law enforcement experience, this is the most violent and gruesome scene that I have dealt with. Now, that's the police spokesperson, Patrick Swanton, okay? So obviously horrific, right? I mean, all sides firing at one another. It's like out of a movie, but it's not a movie. It's real life. Those people actually died. 18 people in the hospital. Some of them still in bad shape. Now, here's the curious part. CNN says authorities had anticipated trouble and pre-positioned officers. Well, then why did this go down the way that it did? In fact, that same police spokesperson says there were at least 3 rival gang groups here this morning for whatever reason. As they were here, we had officers on scene. We expected issues. Now, okay, I'm usually in the camp that says, hey guys, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback and say, oh, how could this tragedy have been prevented? But one way it could have been prevented is if the officers on the scene didn't let them shoot one another, right? 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 Right?
Good God, Cenk is such an ass. He really is a monkey-ass bitch. Can I just say that? He is the king of Monday morning quarterbacking. I love this fantasy. He's sitting on his fat, sweaty ass, out of harm's way, and pretending like he could just solve, oh, if only we just followed my game plan, everything would have been fine. Cenk, you're a fucking moron. The police knew that there was a meeting going on. That doesn't mean you just get to strip search everybody and take away their guns. They're legally owned guns half the time. Yet it doesn't work like that. Guess what? The police also prepared for the, quote, peaceful protests in Baltimore where rocks were thrown at their head. And they also prepared for, I don't know, the court case of the police officers in the LA riots. Yeah, they were on call. That doesn't mean you can just stop people from fighting. These are Americans. These are gun-toting Americans. Many of them legally owned guns. What are you going to do? Just be like, oh, you're wearing a leather jacket, so that's probable cause. Now you're being arrested. And what kind of fucking buffoonery is this? But it gets way worse. They're not talking about this story. This story means nothing. Okay, some bikers had a bike gang fight in the middle of nowhere in Texas. Who cares? Who cares? It's an isolated event that means nothing, and Jesus Christ. This is the Jets versus the Sharks. Who cares? This is their culture, their lifestyle. This is not totally insignificant. The only reason they're covering this is because it's white people, because it's not Muslims, and because it's in America and they're Christian Republicans, and they get to go at them. And watch how they leverage this, and watch how they bring in all their other talking points. Oh, they're coming, watch it.
So now, to be fair to the cops, they were a couple of seconds away. They weren't necessarily in the diner when the shooting started, although they arrived quickly thereafter. Now, I'm a bad guy, according to conservatives, right-wing people, supporters of the Second Amendment, etc. I would have taken their guns away, and then you know what would have happened? They wouldn't have murdered one another.
See, Cenk, it's really a visceral stupidity when you hear him talk. Like, look at that fucking face. Just look at that. I don't know if I want to start with the left hook, because I've been working on my left hook, or just a straight up drop kick to that sweaty mug. Because, Cenk, you do not walk up to 1,000 people and just say, hey guys, mind handing over your guns? Just walk into some gang conflict. What world are you living in? I would love to see the manpower required to do that. That would be the National Guard, Cenk. And guess who would do a video about how, oh, the police are bad and they're too militaristic? You would Monday morning quarterback their infringement of the rights of these people. What a clown. You don't just take guns from people. It's not how it works in America. It's definitely not how it works in Texas.
Okay, and they'd all be alive today. Now, I wouldn't take their guns away forever, like no hunting, etc. But if you've got 5 rival gangs And they've got 100 weapons between them. I mean, this is, like, people forget in the Wild Wild West, the reason we had to shoot out at the OK Corral is because you had to surrender your weapon as you entered town. Before town, you got issues, you want to go hunting, kill a rabbit, feed yourself, go ahead and have your gun. But if you're entering town, Wyatt Earp needed your gun because he didn't want people fighting in town. Now we're like, have at it, Hoss, bring in 100 people and do a shootout. This is worse than the Wild Wild West.
No, Cenk, we have laws. Are you suggesting that we go back to the Wild Wild West? You want to go back to that time? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, Waco, here's your problem. You're not old school enough. Go back to the days of the Wild West. Let's get some shootouts going. Let's get some lynchings going. Let's get some posses together. And let's just have some guy with a shotgun march around saying, yeah, if you don't hand over your gun, we're going to have a shootout on the street. Is that what you want? Because your little dumb story about the OK Corral, which the only reason you know about that is because of the 2 movies that came out. Do you know what happened at the OK Corral? Everybody died. The cops got shot. The bandits got shot. It was a bloody shootout. There was a little bit of friction when Wyatt Earp stepped up and said, hey guys, you mind handing over your guns? So your little genius idea and your ridiculous historical example is a total failure. Let's not model our system after Wyatt Earp and the OK Corral. It's like saying, yeah, I'm the new Secretary of Defense, and I think the America's policy about defending its nation should be based on the Alamo, where we all stood our ground and got massacred, every last one of us. You're just dumb, Cenk. God, what a pompous bitch this guy is. This man is a pompous degenerate. God, glorified taxi driver, man. Shut up.
Now, the second aspect of this is white-on-white crime. Okay, now, people talk about black-on-black crime all the time, but Kyle, let's have a conversation about this. Let's be honest about this, right? So, first of all, can you imagine 5 black gangs get together, okay, in South Central? They bring 100 guns with them.
The cops are totally cool with that.
Yeah, the cops
go ahead, guys.
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
The cops are cool with the gangs existing. You don't think cops know that the Bloods and the Crips and all these gangs exist? They let these guys operate. They're not just going to go busting in like Elliot Ness and just be like, hey, everybody, party's over. I'm breaking up the gang. Jesus Christ. I love how this one isolated event in Waco, and now suddenly there's a false equation to be had. So now suddenly black gang violence is the same as white gang violence? It's not even remotely close. Black gangs are killing each other all the time. It's not even news. It literally does not make the news. Not to mention, even if it did, you wouldn't cover it. Just like you didn't cover the 43 Pakistanis who got killed by Muslims. Just like you don't cover Mein Kampf being a bestseller in Turkey. Just like you don't cover the Armenian genocide. Because none of those things make you feel good. You don't like those facts.
The cops are on the scene. They say, oh, well, we knew the 5 black gangs had brought 100 weapons and decided that we're just going to let's see how it plays out.
Compare this to peaceful protesters in Ferguson. They broke out the tear gas immediately when there were peaceful protesters in Ferguson. Here these guys already show up with guns, and the cops are like, let's see where this goes. It may end up somewhere good.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off, Kyle. Peaceful protesters. What video are you watching? First of all, do you see how he just brought up the black shit? Now is the time to leverage the story. This story in Waco, Texas, has nothing to do with black people. The reason you're watching it on the Young Turks is all about the Young Turks' racism and white guilt and desire to attack white people in general. Anytime they can get a nut shot in on white people at large, they're taking it. Why are we talking about Ferguson? First of all, the peaceful protesters, like the ones who were throwing rocks and bricks at the cops' heads, those ones, yeah, I don't think they were all peaceful, Kyle, and I don't think they just, oh, here's a peaceful sit-down protest. This guy's looking like Gandhi, looking like John Lennon, fasting. Let's drop some tear gas on him. I don't think that's exactly how it went down. Yeah, so here's how it works. There's a right to assembly. So the cops aren't just going to be like, oh, you guys are part of a biker gang. Let us predict that there's going to be a gunfight. Let us disband your group. Let us deny you the right to assemble. Let us snatch away your gun, which you have a legal right to own. I mean, what are you talking about? If a crime was committed like it was here, arrests will be made, and they were made. You can't just preemptively, what is this, pre-crime? This is like Minority Report? Tom Cruise slides down some rope off a helicopter and is like, oh, I've predicted that there's going to be a gun battle here. Let me stop this shit. Look at these progressive testicle sacks. Kyle. Oh, my God. I want to smash this guy. I want to curb this guy's face. You know what Ed Norton did to that home invader where he put his mouth on a curb and stomped his head? That's what I want to do to Kyle. Metaphorically.
Well, it didn't. Now, great article in Huffington Post from Julia Craven about this story, and then there were some tweets about it, etc. We were thinking along similar lines, but I want to give her credit because she did a great job with it. She came up with some of the stats. In 2011, 83% of white victims were murdered by other whites. White on white crime. Where are the fathers?
Okay, so this is very strange. Like, he's trying to be snide and snarky and, like, just cunty. Who is saying that there isn't white on white crime? Who said that? All he's referencing is that people talk about black on black crime. And that is because that is a huge problem. So he just dropped a number, 83%. Okay, with blacks, it's 93%. So it is more of a problem. And we understand that most of the time, people who kill somebody else have a motive for that. Therefore, they tend to know the person, live with the person, work with the person, or associate with the person. And we also know that most races associate with members of their same race. That's birds of a feather flock together. That's how life works. You live in a neighborhood that tends to be people of your own race. That's the fact. So it's really not surprising at all. And I don't know what sort of point you've tried to make here. It's bizarre. Guess what? 99% of Turkish people who are killed by other Turkish people. Okay? Wait, now where are we? There's no point to what you just said. And as far as where are the fathers are at home. The fathers are at work. So what he's trying to do now is create a comparison between the chronic, disastrous problem of fathers abandoning their children in the black community. And he's trying to compare that to the white community. He's trying to say, look, it's even. Look, we can't blame fathers. I mean, not having a father surely can't play into this. Look, because there was biker gang violence here today. So therefore, the numbers are all even. Actually, they're not, Jank. They're not even at all. So here are the numbers. This is single-parent families by race and ethnicity from 2009 to 13. The numbers are actually worse than this. Okay, here it's showing upwards of 60-something%. It's more than 70%. This is only for these years, but in general, it is around 70% of black families. I like this, black or African American, either or. What does that mean? Okay, over 70% of black families are single mothers. Most of them single mothers, I guess single parent to be technical. And in the white community, it is somewhere around 30%. So it's more than twice as bad in the black community. It is a ridiculous problem in the black community. Of course, it manifests itself in terrible ways. And children have no role models. They have no discipline. They have no idea what it is to be a man. They just go out and they hang out with the wrong people, with the friends. They get caught up in the culture, and boom, next thing you know, they're committing crimes. Not all of them, Jank. No, not all of them, but many, as the stats show.
Let me just say, Jank, on behalf of all moderate white people, I would like to apologize for the extremist white people.
Oh, that's really cute and clever, Kyle. The problem is you just conflated race with religion. So yeah, membership into a death cult really has nothing to do with what the color of your skin happens to be. So you are a pussy. Don't get me wrong. You literally have a camel toe. You are a vagina man. Okay, that's if you were a superhero, you would be vagina man. You would have an emblem on the center of your chest of an axe wound. Because that is how you operate. You feel the need to apologize for white people. Even in this joke, that's not a funny joke. What you just tried to do. That's how you actually are. You are dripping in white guilt. I don't give a fuck what some redneck, backwards-ass pieces of white trash in Texas, Waco, Texas. Do you think I feel responsible for them? No. I couldn't care less about them. I don't give a shit that they're white. You do, and you think of them as white first because you are a racist. That is the grand irony of all of this, is that these people who point their fingers and be like, oh, racist, racist, they are racist. It is beautiful. It is magnificent to behold.
I know that every time a Muslim does something wrong or a black person does something wrong, you can just generalize about the entire group. But with white people just get a pass. If a white person does something wrong, everybody understands that that person is an individual, and to generalize about everybody else in the white community would be ridiculous. It's just that we don't offer that same mindset to black people and to Muslims and to other minority groups.
What white people get a pass? I mean, this is such a racist concept. Like, he is so paternalistic towards black people that he does not even have the courage to acknowledge when they do something bad. So if a black person murders somebody, he's uncomfortable criticizing that. It's ridiculous. If a white person murders somebody or if a black person murders somebody, both cases are bad. It turns out that black people murder people way more often. Way more often. You have a statistic like this that can just sit with you and you can meditate on it for as long as you like. But this is the fact. 13.2% of this country is black. 53% of the murders committed are by black people. Did you hear what I just said? 13.2% of the country is black. So if they were behaving normally, you would imagine that 13.2% of the murders would be from black people. No, it's 53%. That is an outrage. That is an embarrassment, a debacle. That's why when there is another black person murdering somebody, we go, oh yeah, well, that 13% commits 50% of the fucking murders. So it's not shocking. Oh yeah, I'm aware of that fact. Let's say you had an Asian gay homeless man. Okay, they don't exist, but let's imagine one did. They are very rare. An Asian gay homeless man, almost impossible to find. Let's say that Asian gay homeless man murdered somebody. That should be shocking to you. Do you know why? Because that would be a 0.002% of the population committing a murder when you know for a fact that Asian gay homeless men commit 0% of the murders in the country. They don't commit 53%, they commit 0%. That's why that might stick out more. That isn't racism, that is honestism. That is factism. That is realitism, okay?
Yeah, and now let me fill out the numbers more. 3,172 white people were killed in 2011, unfortunately. 2,630 of them lost their lives at the hands of another white person. I mean, we gotta wonder what's going wrong in white culture today. I think it's largely the rock and roll music. I think it's very dangerous.
Oh my goodness, Jank. Oh no, you stopped too early, my friend. That's some very selective editing. Wow, that is biased. Wow, that is criminally biased. Wow, what a criminally rigged, cherry-picked stat was that. Holy shit. Let's, here on Atheism is Unstoppable, we don't stop at bashing whites. We give you the full numbers. The numbers that aren't politically correct. The numbers that make the progressives squirm at night. Let's look at those stats from 2011, shall we? Let's go to the FBI. Okay, in 2011, we had a bunch of murderers. A bunch of white murderers. You want to hear how many? 4,729 in 2011. But you have to understand, white people make up 77.7% of the population. Most of the country is white. I mean, that is hundreds of millions of people. So, of course, that number is going to be big because we're taking it from a huge pool of people. Now, with black people, you have to bear in mind, they are 13.2%. So, the number of murderers that they have, well, here's the number. It was 4,729 for white people, who are 77.7% of the country. For the 13.2%, it was 5,486. That is not per capita, folks. That is grand totals. So in other words, even though white people outnumber black people by over 5 times, close to 6 times, there's close to 6 times as many white people as black people. Black people still have more murderers than white people, by a long shot. Imagine if the country was 77.7% black. Well, fucking riddle me that fuckity-doo-dah. Imagine what that might be like Jamaica, one of the murder capitals of the world. Tons of black people there. They're killing each other at record numbers. Or tra-la-la your way down to South Africa or Liberia or Zimbabwe and check the murder numbers there. They're absurd. You won't see a study on that, by the way. Let's look at Jamaica, the white murders in Jamaica and the black murders in Jamaica. I might do a whole video just on that. Oh, you will not be comfortable with those results. Oh no. Oh no. You better get your words locked and loaded. Geopolitical, socioeconomic, slavery. Get it all ready. I want to hear all the excuses, you fucks.
Comedian Carrie Codette also wrote about this. She writes, in 2013, whites led all other groups in aggravated assault, larceny, theft, arson, weapons carrying, and vandalism. When it comes to sexual assault, whites take the forcible rape cake. They're also more likely to kill children, the elderly, family members, their significant others, and even themselves.
And that is a statistic that is intellectually dead in the water. That is a corpse of an argument, because that is not per capita. They're just taking the total numbers. They are literally comparing 77.7% of the country to 13.2%, seeing that the 77.7 have more numbers on the whole, without dividing by the population. That is insanity. That is idiotic. And the beauty of it is that black people commit more murders even with 13.2%. That's the fucking beauty of it. They're outnumbered 6 times over, and they still murder more people. Where are the Asians on this list? You know why we don't talk about Asians going on killing sprees and killing 53% of the time in our country? It's because they don't do it. They don't do it. And guess what? If Asians started killing people, if next year 53% of all murders were done by Asians, I would comment on that. I would factor that into how I view reality. And you know what I would be called? A racist for acknowledging the fact that Asians killed 53% of the people. They don't do that. Look at their family structure. 17% single-parent families? That's a good start. If you looked at their education numbers, it's going to be off the charts, and it's going to put to shame the blacks, the Hispanics, and the whites. These are reasons why the Asians don't do that. And good for them. It's commendable. The model minority. They come in, they work hard, they obey the law. It's unbelievable. Is it that hard? There is no Asian Sharia law. Nobody's got a problem with them, except for the black people, because they're the first ones to burn down the Korean grocer who's helping their community. Well, just because it's not black-owned and just because they're somebody else, they're different, they're tribal. But no, black people aren't racist. So when a black person attacks a Korean, nah, it's not racism, folks. They are Pocahontas. They are Kunta Kinte. Off limits, verboten. You do not attack the blacks. And if you do, the pussy posse of Kyle and Jenk, dripping with their white guilt, and white, Jenk is fat brown, as we know. But so his white guilt manifests in more white rage. He just hates white people. If it's not Ottoman, it's not right. He's a Turkish egomaniac, and he's willing to defend Muslims and attack whites all of the time. Every time he has a chance, he will do that.
And she went on to say, so why is white-on-white crime so prevalent, one may ask? Is it the music they listen to? Is it the white divorce rate, resulting in more white children coming from broken homes? Perhaps it's the TV shows they watch or the violent sports they play. Now, as Kyle pointed out, it sounds absurd. It sounds ridiculous. We don't actually make those arguments. See, those are comedians making the arguments because it's ridiculous. But if it's so ridiculous when it comes to whites, why isn't it equally ridiculous when Fox News gets to say it about blacks day in, day out? When, as Kyle pointed out, most of it is during peaceful protests.
What the fuck are you... It's almost impossible to stay within his brain, to try to understand the sentence as he burps it out. He doesn't understand the sentence. What chance does the audience have to follow this pattern of logic? What the hell are you... What peaceful protests are you talking about? There are many non-peaceful protests. There are many riots where there's a lot of violence. There's gang warfare. There's drug-related violence. People in the black community are incredibly violent and criminal. That is the fact. 53% of all murders come from black people. You will never get around that. That fact looms over your head, and you can dick around and dance around all you want. That is a problem. And also, nobody's excusing white people for their crimes. Throw them in jail. They do get thrown in jail. Nobody's excusing that. Have I ever heard anybody say, when white people commit murders, it's okay because they're white? Who's even saying that? It's a straw man. They're having a conversation with a ghost. So stupid.
But if it's so ridiculous when it comes to whites, why isn't it equally ridiculous when Fox News gets to say it about blacks day in, day out.
And the difference, the reason you can talk about black people in a different context than white people is because they are committing crimes at a ridiculous breakneck rate that is nowhere near what white people are. Nowhere near it. That's why there's a difference. There is a difference. Just like there is a difference between Mormonism and Islam. A huge, huge difference.
And think about how many people that narrative actually convinces. Like a majority of the Fox News viewers who hear Bill O'Reilly make similar arguments where he quotes statistics about crime amongst blacks, they hear that and they go, oh yeah, that sounds totally reasonable. Bill O'Reilly's right. And the takeaway, the implication is, well, blacks are genetically inferior, and here are some numbers that show that.
Wait a minute, what? This is why I talk about Kyle being racist. What? How is that the takeaway? That is your nightmare. That is your freaky subconscious who just came up with that thought. That's your fear. That, oh no, if I acknowledge that black people are more criminal than everybody else, that's me saying that they're genetically inferior? Racially inferior? Who said that? I respect black people enough to call them out on their heinous activity. Just like I would call out anybody. This has nothing to do with your bullshit eugenics argument about racial superiority. What are you talking about? I don't care what reasons people want to give for this. The fact on the ground is that they commit murder and crime at a rate that is unbelievable. And everybody should condemn it. Everybody. But instead we get a parade of excuses. Talking about the KKK, talking about slavery, talking about systemic racism. So this guy who just robbed a store and killed the shop owner, or this guy who belongs to a gang, or this guy who just shot somebody over some crack, that's because of racism? Fuck you people, man. Fuck you. When are you going to grow up and take responsibility? And that goes to the black people. For this white schmuck, crack a please. Big time on this fucking pussy. He needs to shower off that white guilt, shower off his paternal instinct to baby the black people and not let them stand up for the 53%, the fucking anchor that stat puts on society. Young black men are a disgrace to the society. You tell me, look at the stats, who's committing these acts. It is young black men. It's insane. And we can't talk about it? Why? Because it upsets your sensibility? Oh my God, you four-eyed freak. I want to slap you. Look at that earring this guy has. What a fucking poser.
Well, like you just said, you don't hear on MSNBC, they don't quote these numbers and heavily imply that white people are genetically inferior.
Because nobody, Kyle, is talking about genetic inferiority here. Nobody. What I am trying to talk about is actual reality. Statistics, facts, those things that can inform how we view the world. That's what I'm trying to address. You're talking about bullshit arguments that nobody's making about racial inferiority. It's fucking insane.
With one set, you're allowed to generalize. With the other set, you're not allowed to generalize.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got an actual conversation about whether Trayvon Martin was a thug when he's the one that got shot in the chest.
Correct.
He was the victim. And then because he was wearing a hoodie, they called him the thug. I mean,
That's all it takes. That's all it takes to call a black person a thug.
Yeah.
You have a hoodie, you're a thug.
Trayvon Martin. Okay, wait a minute. You want to talk about Trayvon Martin? Oh my God, Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was a thug. That guy was headed nowhere. You want to know about Trayvon Martin? First of all, the victim. Yeah, he was the victim of a gunshot after he attacked a guy. The guy was following him. George Zimmerman, total asshole, don't get me wrong, but Trayvon Martin started a brawl. He turned him, confronted him, and punched him repeatedly. So, yeah, he's the victim of a gunshot. He's not some innocent cherub walking around, floating around on a cloud. I'm sorry. Nobody's calling him a thug because he got shot. You fucking moron. He's a thug because he was a thug. Because he was an up-to-no-good, punk-ass, young black male. Everybody knows that. Do you know what his Twitter account name was? Mine is Atheist Rue. Do you know what his was? No Limit Nigga. No Limit Nigga. Is this the Rhodes Scholar of whom you're speaking of? The Boy Scout? By the way, I'm a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. Maybe I should post up my Eagle Scout acceptance speech video. So maybe if Twitter was around when I became an Eagle Scout, I would say, Eagle Scout for life. But I guess, you know what I wouldn't put my Twitter account as? No Limit Nigga. Let's look at some of his tweets. Here's a retweet. Ha ha ha. Ho, you got used for your loose ass pussy. Tighten up. Hashtag literally. You the type of bitch that give up the pussy for free and think it's cool. Pussy ain't free. Okay? We in need of some trees. We that weed, man. Okay, so he is a guy who talks about niggas, bitches, pussies, hoes, tightening up their pussies, and he's in need of some trees, meaning weed. Marijuana for the white people. Get high to balance out the lows. Okay, so he's a drug guy. Great. I got game for you young hoes. Don't grow to be a dumb hoe. Okay. Here's one. Here's a tweet. This will go down with Shakespeare, if I'm not mistaken. I'll beat the pussy up. I lost count of the ups, but it was several ups. I think he ran out of characters. Dick slipping out when you got her in doggy? Either you trying to long stroke with a short dick, or she need to arch that, I assume back or ass. Retweet if you smoke weed. White peoples call police, black peoples call their cousin. Okay, so you're going to say, oh no, Bill Maher smokes weed. You know, he's just a kid, just a weed-smoking, sort of misogynistic, sort of nigga. You know, no, he was a thug. Okay, this is the guy that jumped up, started shit. You know, what up? Obviously, he didn't deserve to die. George Zimmerman shouldn't have had a gun. Citizens shouldn't have guns. But to tell me that this guy was an angel or that he was doing well in school? No, he was not.
White people gangs show up with guns, and they're like, well, these might be upstanding citizens just holding true to their Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and see, again, just a straw man. I mean, they're so afraid of the word thug. Like, oh my God, it's not the word that they're offended by, it's the fact that lies underneath the word. Thug means people who are involved in criminal activity. Black people are involved in criminal activity. That's the fact that they're afraid of. They're just blaming the messenger. They're blaming the word. They're not only blaming the messenger, they're blaming the word the messenger uses because they're that afraid. They are that afraid and averse to the fact about black people and their criminality. And by the way, Kyle, nobody says that these biker gang people are upstanding citizens. Nobody. Literally nobody. You could name them whatever you want. Nobody's in favor of them. They're a disgrace. They're trash. They're low class. They are tattooed fat freaks. They are disgusting people, if you ask me. I just cannot get my head around the stance that these people take on race and their fear, their raw fear about reality. It's the same shit you see with religious people and their raw fear of death, the reality of death. That's what causes this entire phenomenon we know as religion, is the fear of death. And these PC progressive schmucks, they fear reality. They fear the unpolitically correct truth about race and criminality, about what Muslims do. They don't want to talk about it. But guess what? I do, and I did. And now it's over.
Brutal. One nice and one nasty experience. There's absolutely no evidence for that at all.